Well, in one way, like I say, almost everything in Dharma is training the mind, because it is mind, as Lord Buddha said, it is mind that is the source of suffering, and mind which is the source of happiness, mind which is the source of samsara, and mind which is the source of nirvana, of liberation from samsara. But in the Mahayana tradition, mind training can also refer to a specific set of instructions, a specific cycle of instructions and practice. The Tibetan word for which is lojong. And this teaching, the lojong teaching, is an extremely effective and powerful way for transforming our ordinary neurotic habits of mind, which focus upon our own interests, which focus on privileging ourselves above others, in short, which are dominated by a kind of grasping at self and a kind of obsession and cherishing of oneself, replacing that, which is in fact the source of suffering for us and others, with an extraordinary, brave and heroic altruistic mind, one that is also endowed with wisdom. So the Lojong teaching has this kind of directness and simplicity about it. It is a set of trainings which, in a way, can be summed up in two lines: cease cherishing yourself, and instead cherish others. So there's that radical demand in the Lojong teachings. But though it's a very radical demand, the Lojong teachings are full of extraordinarily useful and good advice, not just for how to, as it were, begin this work of transformation on the cushion, in formal meditation, but also in everyday life, how we can, as it were, upend and redirect our kind of habitual impulse, kind of tendencies to selfishness, and instead find a way to develop compassion in its place. And at the heart of that Lojong approach is this suggestion that we exchange ourselves for others. That is to say, that we start to view the world as it is viewed by those who we consider outsiders, others, and, as it were, assume they're ourself. And this, one's, as it were, normal self, we see as the other, so that there's no more kind of radical empathy than this, to literally put ourselves in the shoes of another and see the world from their perspective. When we're able to do that, then our kind of continuing privileging ourselves will collapse, because now we will think, what is good for the other, what is good for them, and we will then be motivated to strive always to place the welfare of others, the well-being of others, in the paramount place in our life, which is exactly how bodhicitta arises and how bodhicitta is maintained and strengthened. So Lojong is a key set of very direct, very pithy, very earthy instructions for generating the bodhicitta mind out of the neurotic, self-clinging mind that we have now. It's often said in Lojong, what do we need to bring to the Lojong teachings? I mean, do we need to bring great mastery of philosophy? Do we need to bring great mastery of ritual or meditation? No, actually the qualification is exactly that. Our own ordinary egoic mind is the field upon which will affect this astonishing transformation. So Lojong in that sense is for everybody. It's not just for the monastics, not just for the intellectuals, not just for the great yogins. It's for everybody, and yet at the same time, it's so profound. It's sometimes called the secret teaching of the Mahayana. Lojong was brought to Tibet primarily by the great Indian master Atisha in the 11th century, and he shared the teachings originally just in kind of very informal ways with his disciples. And then gradually over the next century or two, Atisha's various oral teachings on Lojong were written down and became kind of standard texts for training in this method of practice. And those texts, originally written by the early masters of the Kadampa tradition, actually became part of the kind of inheritance of all the Dharma traditions in Tibet.